Okay, I have a few notes just so I stay on track. My name's Kirsten, and Casey Cleveland asked me to speak, and so just a little bit about my experience with mental health. So for me, mental health was definitely not like something that I wasn't aware of. I grew up in a family that was aware of it. We talked about it, which was great. But I was like, that's for my crazy family members. That's not for me. Like, I don't have mental, issues or whatever. So it still was something I was aware of, which is not necessarily normal for most families. So I am grateful that it was something that we talked about. So I struggled with a lot of anxiety through the years and just realized, over time, this is really affecting my life. I was in Target, and I thought the place was going to blow up. It was irrational, it wasn't real, but I couldn't get out of that thought that someone was going to blow the place up. Yes, there was lots of things going on in the world at that time that would cause maybe my brain to start thinking that way. However, it still was irrational. Once I started realizing that it was affecting my everyday life, I started to be wait, this isn't normal. This isn't my normal way of living. This shouldn't be normal. So I started realizing that, and then I became a mom and dealt with some postpartum anxiety, and then it heightened, and I was like, this is affecting now my daughter. So things that so I started to try and process some of those things so it wouldn't transfer to my daughter. I didn't want my issues to be her issues, or my anxieties or my fears be her fears. But so that was how I kind of tapped into what mental health was and all this idea of anxiety and dealing with issues. But about 12 years ago, I went through a pretty traumatic thing where I was in a program for 4 months, and I realized that it was very cultish and very traumatic. And so probably about 6 months ago, I walked into a church, and I was having serious anxiety because it was a church that it was affiliated with, and I was so upset, and I could not worship, I could not be there, and I was like, this is not okay. I can't allow this to affect me like this, to be able to worship God and love God. So I was introduced to EMDR, and I don't know too much about it, but the thing that hooked me on it was the fact that God allows very smart people to learn about the brain that God created, to be able to learn how it works, to then be able to help us heal. But it's God's design in our brain to be able to heal, but he's also gifted people smart enough to realize it. So basically, the best way I can describe EMDR is that your brain works on either side. So when you're normally, right now, left side, right side, but when you're in EMDR, you're following a light, and it kind of awakens both sides of your brains. So it allows traumatic things that are in the forefront that cause anxiety and issues to then become long-term. So that's kind of the idea, is this cool thing that someone knew that they could get your brain to work both sides to then be able to heal traumatic events. And so I think for me, the biggest thing was realizing that you don't have to be bipolar schizophrenic to have mental illness, which my grandmother had, or debilitating depression to be that there's still it's okay to not be okay, and be able to walk through some of that without it being crazy. So for me, it was EMDR that really healed me from this traumatic experience that I experienced 10 years ago, and now I can live. Okay, I need to say one more thing. I might be going longer, but the point is, so for me, when I started EMDR, I was like, I almost quit. I was like, this is not doing anything. I don't understand this. I'm exhausted. Like, my brain was tired, but I didn't feel like any change. And now being on the other end of it and like done with my sessions, I can say like I can talk about that experience without anger and frustration and anxiety, and that I can live my life seeing God how he allowed me, or maybe I walked through that, but he's also healed me from that traumatic experience. So that's my experience. Thanks for letting me share. And yeah.